wars. 4 years we had no wars, except we defeated ISIS. We defeated ISIS in record time, but we had no wars. They said, he will start a war. I'm not going to start a war. I'm going to stop wars. But this is also a massive victory for democracy and for freedom. Many people have told me that God spared my life for a reason. And that reason was to save our country and to restore America to greatness. And now we are going to fulfill that mission together. We're going to fulfill that mission. The task before us will not be easy, but I will bring every ounce of energy, spirit, and fight that I have in my soul to the job that you've entrusted to me. This is a great job. There's no job like this. This is the most important job in the world. Just as I did in my first term, we had a great first term, a great first term. I will govern by a simple motto: promises made, promises kept. We're going to keep our promises. Many people have told me that God spared my life for a reason.
But here's the thing. Sometimes the fight takes a while. That doesn't mean we won't win.
Vice President Kamala Harris publicly conceded the 2024 presidential election to Donald Trump on Wednesday by encouraging her supporters to continue.
And Trump, I suppose he himself did not see that he was cruising to the popular votes, which has always been difficult for the Republicans to win, and to a historic, particularly for his party, electoral college votes of 301. All you need to win is 270. Kamala Harris managed 226 electoral college votes. So she lost it. Now, how do you appreciate and understand how the NPP and NDC appear to seize Trump's victory and project it over December 7? Both parties here in Ghana issued statements. My guest in the studio, Professor Bafo Adjumandua, former United Nations Senior Governance Advisor. Nanayao Mreku is International Relations and African Politics Analyst. He's with the University of Ghana. Sami Jamfi is National Communications Officer, the NDC. Dennis Miracles Abuaje is Director of Communications for Baumia 2024 campaign. Gentlemen, thank you very much for making time to join us on Newsfile.
Thank you.
Right. So maybe I'll begin here around the table before I go to my guest joining us via Zoom, the researcher Nanaya Mreku, who has, expertise in international relations and African politics as well. So I'll start with you, Sami. I think it's the NPP that you issued your statement first by Fifi Fiavi Kwete. How is Trump's victory to be used to measure that the NDC is winning the elections in December?
Samson, a very good morning to you and our cherished viewers and my colleague panelists in the studio. I have said that the fact that Donald Trump has won elections in the United States of America does not necessarily mean that Party A or Party B will win elections in Ghana. I don't think so. In times past, Ghana used to have a very striking resemblance, or if you like, a common feature that we shared with the United States of America in terms of regime change. And there used to be a time where anytime Americans voted for change, we also saw change in Ghana. But that changed in 2020 when Americans voted for change. They voted against Donald Trump. But in Ghana, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo won, at least per the official results declared by the Electoral Commission in Ghana. He was retained. Okay, so that was a departure from what the trend had been. And so I'm not one of those who think that the mere fact that Donald Trump wins an election, then that means the NDC will win an election or the NPP will win an election because their symbol is the elephant. What happened in the US was not a contest between symbols. It was a contest premised on critical issues. But for me, this is the relevant part. The outcome of the US election has some stark parallels with the ongoing campaign in Ghana. If you're a student of politics, you cannot but agree with me that there are significant parallels between the just ended US campaign, that is that of the Republicans and the Democrats, vis-a-vis what is going on in Ghana today, the NPP's campaign versus that of the NDC. And therefore, there are useful lessons that both parties need to draw from the outcome. There are useful lessons that the people of Ghana need to draw from the outcome of the US election. What are these parallels? Look, I can say that the campaign run by Vice President Kamala Harris is on all fours with a campaign being run by Vice President Bawumia.
How exactly?
Because here was a sitting vice president in the United States of America campaigning on the ticket of her own party and preaching change, attempting to distance herself from policies of the government that she's passed and parcel off, creating the impression that she will be her own woman. In fact, she even said that her government was not going to be a continuation of the government of Joe Biden. You understand? And so you saw a vice president pretending to be an opposition leader in his own government and even trying to preach against policies that his government, her government, had implemented. That is the same thing happening in Ghana, where you have a sitting vice president, Alhaji Bawumia, claiming to be a mere driver's mate in his own government, even though he is the chairman of the economic management team. And the president has told us that when it comes to the economy, he is the alpha and the omega. He is the economic messiah and wizkid that Ghana needs. And today, he is telling Ghanaians that, look, my party is in power. I am the vice president of that government and chairman of the economic management team. But you are going through many problems, including high taxes. Taxes that my own party, which is in government, has imposed on you. But vote for my party. And when I become president, I will scrap those taxes. Have you heard this before? This is simply contradictory. This is double speak. This is hypocritical. And when he's asked, why don't you do that now, since you have the power? Your party, on whose ticket you are running, is in office. And all these things are in the manifesto of your party. You are the leader. Why don't you do that now? He laughs and says, oh, if I do this now, what will be there for me to do tomorrow when I win power?
That was in jest.
Not in jest.
It was in jest.
He meant that seriously. He never took it back.
I sat just by him, and I could see he was just having a joke.
No, you were in that video. And I'm sure you yourself could not believe that the vice president was saying that. You understand that? Why do I do it now? But people are suffering now. People are dying now. You don't care because you want to win power and have work to do tomorrow. You won't do the important things that ought to be done today. So you hear him say that, oh, utilities are so high, but I have both solutions. Both solutions for the problem that his own government has created in the last 8 years. And you never hear him talking about both solutions for the ever depreciating cedi. So I say that Bawumia and Kamala Harris both ran, or if in the case of Bawumia, he is running a campaign very similar to that of Kamala Harris because they are all attempting to exculpate themselves from liability and responsibility. They are attempting in futility to distance themselves from their own government. You see, the people of this country are discerning, just like the people of America. And just like the people of America did not buy that, I know that the people of Ghana will not buy that campaign of Bawumia, because he's one and the same as a Akufo-Addo. You cannot separate him from the NPP. And so he cannot be telling us to vote for him to come and change what the NPP has done to us, destroying our economy, when the NPP is in power and can do those things today. A vote for Bawumia is nothing but a 10-10 vote for Akufo-Addo. And I know that the
66% of the people who voted for Trump voted for him on the basis of his capacity to transform the economy.
Yeah.
And they referred to his track record. Yeah. Can Ghanaians say the same? Emphatically,
yes. That is why I say that there are a lot of significant parallels. Look, in America, the main issue that voters considered in making their choice was the economy, like you said. And what was that economic issue that was really at the forefront of Trump's campaign? Inflation, high inflation. Is inflation a problem in Ghana today? Yes. In 2022, Samson, we had inflation rise to an unprecedented high of 54%, the highest in the last 50 years. That totally eroded the capital and profit margins of businesses. Many people lost their jobs and their businesses and their livelihoods because of that. And according to the World Bank, it is because this government recklessly decided to get a central bank to print over 45 billion cedis for them in 2022 alone. That is what led to that hyperinflation, that according to the World Bank again, plunged over 800,000 people into poverty. Now, Samson, in our case, it is not just inflation. We have defaulted on our debt obligations as a country under the NPP and under the watch of Bawumia as chairman of the economic management team for the first time in 50 years. Today, our economy, which was rated B- under Mahama, is rated junk. Today, unemployment in Ghana has risen from 8.4% under Mahama, according to the Ghana Statistical Service, to close to 15%. Today, you need more than 17 Ghana cedis to buy a dollar, when under Mahama, Ghanaians know that they needed just about 4 cedis, 20 pesos. That is when the dollar was at its highest, you understand, rates per the cedi. Today in Ghana, interest rates are hovering around 35%, 40%. Businesses are dying. Businesses are relocating from Ghana to Cote d'Ivoire, to Togo, to Burkina, to Nigeria. Job losses all over. You cannot tell me that this economy we have today can be compared to the economy under John Mahama. And so clearly Ghanaians know that John Mahama has a proven track record in terms of sound management of the economy. And that is a safe pair of hands that we can trust to steer Ghana out of the economic malaise.
So you see, voters,
we've been plunged
voters like me who don't vote because they have an attachment to a party. And you know, in Ghana and almost elsewhere, it's typically the same. You have people who are attached to their party regardless of what happens, they'll vote for their party.
Yeah.
There are constituencies in the voter region, constituencies in the Ashanti region. They'll tell you in the voter region, there are constituencies, if you put a dog and put an NDC, flag around it, it will win the elections. If you do the same in, say, Bantama or elsewhere, they'll win the elections. People who don't have these attachments, they are looking to who has the solutions to the problems that we face. Dennis, do you have those solutions?
Thompson, let me say a very good morning to our boss here and Sammy. And also, happily announce that, yes, every cocoa farmer in Ghana today and their children are excited that Cabinet has just approved for all children of cocoa farmers in this country to receive free tertiary education. And I think it's a big deal. And so that is the most refreshing news this week. And Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia also met the youth, and he tells them, based on all the foundation we've built over the period, over 2.3 million jobs created so far, but he's put in place and outlined clearly strategies to create 4 million more jobs in the next 4 years. And so whilst the cocoa farmers receive the needed skills for their children. Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia provides the jobs for these young people.
Are these election panic reactions?
No, this election is a continuation of the successes we have achieved whilst we work towards resolving the ones that are outstanding. So, for example, if you hear a government that has given free senior high school education to over 3 million children, tell you that, listen, these children's next most difficult period is tertiary. And so this is my solution to them. You have no reason to doubt that government.
I said how many million children?
Over 3 million.
Over 3 million?
Yes. So that's
someone asked me the other day to ask you, do you give the impression that but for free SHS, all of these people will not have been in school?
No, we've never said that. What we've said is that but for free SHS, over 100,000 will be home every year.
Okay.
And that's a big deal. So, so in 8 years, you could have close to about 1 million who would remain at home. And that's like a big deal. And then also, even those who are going, I managed to go through secondary education, but only God knows the torture that I went through. So that's also some 30%, 40% taking away that. So if the state decides to invest in this space, it's a big deal. It's a real big deal. But to the substantive matter for this morning, I agree with Sami. And I'm glad he's, departing from his party's, official position.
I saw an attempt to dilute what you may have brought up.
Of course, because we had a conversation yesterday. We actually had a conversation.
Okay, go ahead.
I think Sami and I had a conversation on the AM show yesterday, so he knew where I was going to come from. But the point is that, yes, people run all manner of things during elections. The numerologists, those who are looking in the skies, we have our local prophets doing their own thing. We have our posters, some are doing Agenda 1, Agenda 2. People are doing permutations. There's so many things that go on. And so anybody at all can use the American situation to, also make a projection. But clearly in scientific terms, in real terms, you can't use the American situation to fit into the Ghana situation. My cousins in Latte, they don't care about who a certain Donald Trump or Kamala Harris is in America. And the fact that they are going into the poll to go and queue to vote for party A or B because a certain Donald Trump won elections.
No, the argument that he's done one term and because he was rejected, he cannot come to power again. I'm talking about John Mahama. And now you have Donald Trump. Disprove that kind of campaign.
These arguments can be made in several forms. There's an argument that the Americans have realized the biggest mistake they made by pushing aside the Conservative Party as a result of his challenges he had with COVID. And so Ghanaians today are patting themselves and say, hey, look at America. Had we made the same mistake by voting for John Mahama in 2020, by now, we'd also be putting our hands on our heads, like Americans are doing with Kamala Harris, and begging for Nana Addo to come back. Because fundamentally, Donald Trump was voted out of power in 2020 as a result of the challenges he had with COVID. That's fact, and all of its management. In fact, during the COVID period, he had to spend a lot of time to explain why the inflation and the economy was going through challenges as a result of COVID. And he was constantly blaming the Chinese people for introducing all of these things. So after they voted him out, they realized that we voted out a Conservative Party and brought in these Democrats, and their situation is worse. So Kamala lost the elections because she was a bad government. Basically, that is what it was. She and her party, the Democrats, were a worse option to what the Americans experienced under Donald Trump. But it's not the same in Ghana. Under Donald Trump in America, he did not plunge the Americans into darkness for over 4 years. He never did that. Under Donald Trump in America, indeed, even during COVID, he had to make sure that they were making some payments to some public servants, even in those crises. But in Ghana, under the former President Mahama, 2013, 14, 15, 16 nurses, teachers were left on the streets. They were picketing to be employed. Nurses and teachers' allowances were removed. It happened under this government. Today you tell us, oh no, we never removed nurses and teachers' allowance. We replaced it with scholarship. Who in this country, which nurse or teacher in this country received any scholarship after they removed it? In fact, he told them that he was not going to negotiate with them. And that if it is as a result of the allowances that they will vote for him, then they should vote against him. So it is not the same. Donald Trump never told the American people that he was a dead goat, and that despite of the challenges that they were going through, he wasn't going to listen to them. Mahama did. So I find it quite bizarre that instead of coming with solutions that confront the typical Ghanaian in Akuse, or Lower Menyanuaso, or Ayeswano, you are here talking about somebody being a former president. Yes, former presidents can always win power. Donald Trump is not the first person. Brazil recently did the same. It is not news. Former presidents can win power. That is why even some presidents can run for 4, 5, 6 times before they win. There's nothing news about that. The difference here is that not every former president wins power back. It is only former presidents who are deemed to be fit and proper and competent who win power back. And so that when I hear the NDC talk and they list and outline all the challenges that this country is experiencing now, I laugh. Yes, there are challenges. There are real difficulties at the moment in this country. But nobody is going to vote for you because there are challenges. Especially because your leader has been president before. We are not going into the elections in 28 days on emotions. We are going into the 2024 elections on facts and our realities. So everybody is going to stand up and say, well, I am at the poll right now. I have a ballot paper. Here am I confronted with a vice president with its own successes and challenges in this government, and now confronted with a former president who was in power before. Now, of all the 12 or 13 people on the ballot, only one person has been president before. Only one person has been commander-in-chief before. Only one person has been given the mandate to run the affairs of this country before, and that's the former president. And you failed woefully. You were a total failure, and that's why you were voted out. So if you're going to come back, you see, Donald Trump didn't only come back to tell the American people that vote for me to come back because Kamala has failed. Donald Trump espoused cogent, clear policies to address the current challenges of the American people. Talk of the immigration.
A key point of his campaign was that Kamala Harris represented continuity of the bad of Biden's administration.
No, he spoke about specific issues, immigration.
No, I'm saying a key part
but
of
I'm
his
telling
campaign
you that the
was that she represented continuity.
Definitely that will come up. But the lead conversation for Donald Trump was on immigration, was on sexuality, abortion issues. He was clear. He told the people that vote for me, if you vote for this lady, she's going to let all these people come into this country. They're going to rape you. They're going to steal from you. And if you listened and actually follow the American elections,
eat the cats.
Exactly, it was quite clear that a bigger percentage of the reasons why Donald Trump is coming back to power is because of his immigration issues, because of his foreign policy.
No, the bigger
because
percentage,
of his foreign policies.
The bigger percentage by facts is because of economy, 66%.
I'm listing 3 or 4 things, so let me finish. Because of his immigration.
Immigration is second.
Because of his foreign policies. Ukraine, the Gaza situation.
He says he will stop the war in Ukraine before he is sworn into office. We are waiting.
Now, when you come to the economic issues, he listed line by line things that he did better than Kamala. And that is, for me, is what, if you really want to use Donald Trump as a trump card, you do in Ghana. You see, the teachers you left at home and did not recruit them, they are there, they will vote against you. The children that you denied the opportunity to go to school because their families were poor, Samson, these children will vote against you. These are economic issues. You understand? The nurses and teachers were asking for better conditions of service. That you told them that you were a dead goat and you're not afraid of their strikes. Today they have received 3-fold increase in their salaries. They will vote against you. You see, the industries, the factories, multimedia here, people lost their jobs here because of doom. So these people have not forgotten.
Then you should not be campaigning.
No, we will campaign.
You make it look so.
No, we will campaign. No, it's not simple. We will campaign because we understand the human psychology, and we understand that somebody can even be hungry, and you can let the person feel that he's full. And so when people are full or they are hungry, draw their attention. We are not naive.
Okay.
We are not ignorant of the facts and of the issues.
Let me
but
get
you see, today.
No,
today,
you don't reply.
Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia goes around and says,
it's supposed to be a preliminary issue.
This is what we have achieved in every sector, Samson. Okay. But we admit that we have economic challenges.
Right.
For example, he says we have challenges in managing our city, but this is my solution. I think that we need to begin to back our currency with gold. And so this is my approach. In terms of jobs, this is my approach. In terms of health, this is my approach. He has never said anywhere that there are no challenges. In fact, Dr. Bawumia is never on record saying anywhere that is not part of this government. What he has done, rather, is to spend time to outline all the successes of the government and then indicate the government challenges and propose solutions to deal with those challenges. And that is what the Ghanaian people are going to use to take a decision as to whether they trust somebody who flip-flops. Today says that I don't believe in free SHS. If I have 2 billion, I won't put in it. Tomorrow comes, I'll do it. In fact, today as we speak, let me remind you, the former president himself is campaigning against his own campaign. He went to a constituency to tell them that, listen, the economy is so bad and I don't think I can promise you a stadium. Okay, now he goes to the voter region and says, when I come, I'll build you a stadium. So he himself, even in opposition, he is campaigning against his own campaign.
Thank you,
so when
Dennis.
I hear them talk about campaigning against your own government, I find it quite bizarre.
Thank you, Dennis.
The fact is that, let me wrap up.
No.
Oh, by the time...
You have overdone your time.
Anyway,
so immediately,
the fact is that
immediately I announced the two of them. Some people have been sending messages and they say, today you are in trouble.
We disappointed them.
I'm trying to comfort them.
Come back before we do.
I'm trying to comfort them by saying that check who is sitting in between them.
Yes.
Okay? That's the towering figure who will moderate the two of them.
We are very mindful.
Now, some will say, I can't believe what you say because I see what you do. That's what they are telling Bawumia right now.
And the Muhammad.
Okay. Thanks. Let me now go to Nana Yao Mreku, International Relations and African Politics Analyst. So Dennis has been saying a few things, and I'm sure you have been listening to him. Clearly, Donald Trump was not voted out because of COVID, so that's not factual. But what are the parallels that you see in the two countries as far as our elections are concerned? Can the two NDC, NPP, appropriate or seize the Donald Trump victory and use the parallels that exist in America to forecast December 7?
Well, thank you very much, Samson. Good morning to your discerning viewers. And good morning to the eminent panelists that you've assembled on your platform. I'm privileged to be part of the discussion. I think this trending issue has been up this past few days that we've seen Donald Trump as the president-elect, the 47th president-elect of the U.S. And there has been a number of analysis and discussions to draw some semblance and similarities between what happens in U.S. politics and elections and that of Ghana. Now, as a matter of fact, I'm a social scientist, and so I like to do with empirical analysis and evidence. And the idea has been that if we are looking at political coincidence, then you can put up a number of years and occurrences where you have seen from Ghana's Fourth Republic that anytime there's a Democrat leadership in U.S., there is a corresponding ideological counterpart in U.S., which is the NDC, more or less. And anytime you've seen a Republican Party in the U.S., the ideological counterparts, more or less again, which is the NPP, is found in government. It's right from the presidency of Jerry John Rawlings through to John Kufuor, to Atamels, to President Kufuor, and of course, President John Dramani Mahama. This has always been the terrain until 2020, where we had a Democrat, President Biden in power, but President Kufuor in government. In fact, there are a number of similarities that other people draw. People even looking at how the Speaker of Parliament is coming from the position in the U.S., and the same thing also in Ghana. In fact, people even go as far as ahead to look at the key swing states, what you call the battleground states in U.S., and also a similar development here in Ghana, where you have some key determining regions like the Central region and Greater Accra region, as more or less the battleground regions in Ghana's election. So these are some of the scenarios that you can identify and say there's some semblance or similarity within Ghana's election and U.S. election. But something, I think there is some analysis that you can make that you can find some differences in these similarities. And so these coincidences do not necessarily reflect the political landscape of Ghana's elections and governance, for which reason you say that what happens in the U.S. must necessarily happen in Ghana. There's a possibility, and there's also the other way around happening in the continent, in Ghana. For instance, let me give you one thing, something. Time is everything I always say in politics. Time is everything in elections. And if you look at when Kamala Harris came to the scene, it looks as if she was behind this. She was a little bit too late compared to President Donald Trump, who had so many years of solidifying his base and championing and driving across his campaign message. Kamala Harris came in 3 to 4 months to the elections. And I have said elsewhere that the U.S. has some kind of trajectory of punishing first-term presidents who decide to put up their vice presidents for presidential nominee. It's happened to President Truman in 1952. It's happened to President Lyndon B. Johnson in 1968. So this is a precedent that we've had. Compare it to Ghana's election. Both Dramani Mahama, former President Dramani Mahama, and President Bawumia, they have had the glory of time. They have had the chance of time for so many years in Ghana's politics. They have had a chance to demonstrate their goodwill to the people of Ghana, what they are likely to do when they come back as president. And they have been very visible within the parties and governments which they have represented. And so time for one element will be a difference between U.S. elections that happen today and what is happening in Ghana. Again, let's look at the selection procedure. If there is anything that made Kamala Harris unpopular, according to some circle, it was because she was foisted on the Democrat Party as the presidential nominee. And probably, if they had opened the game up and went for delegate convention, then they would have elected somebody who would have owned the campaign and probably be the choice of the people, right?
Does that analysis not go for the NDC in the current circumstance, where John Mahama, like Trump, lost election, one term, and has been on the campaign, if you like it, since he lost election? And then Bawumia comes in later after being selected or elected. And Kennedy Japan, Alan Sherman thing, the accusations are that like this guy was just favored from the presidency. If the scales were fair, he would not win. So isn't that like a parallel, if you look at it, one representing Kamala Harris and one representing Donald Trump, the advantage of time?
Well, I think that's a fair question that you put across, something. But I think it's not necessarily a parallel, a semblance for either of the parties. Because if you look at NDC, former President John Dramani Mahama is a choice of the people as far as NDC is concerned, right? There is no idea of him being forced, right? Him being imposed, if I were to choose that word, on the people. Right?
Well, there were those accusations against him as well, anyway. But proceed.
Right. And in that same vein, Vice President Bawumia, right, went through that process of being selected. Most of these candidates have enjoyed the visibility, right? They own the campaign, they own their messages, and so they are out there with this visibility. The dynamics and the nuances are different when it comes to the U.S. election. Once again, look at popular policies. If there was anything that you could blame Kamala Harris for, right? And here, I understand we are in a political season in Ghana. So it makes sense to me that both political parties are able to see the moment to give momentum to their campaign. But let's look at the nuances. Kamala Harris was unpopular, right? Also because of some of the unpopular policies and governance styles of his leader, which is President Biden, right? Some of the policy that Kamala Harris was putting forth, for instance, immigration policy, she was supposed to be the borders as they claim, right? But the Democrat had nothing to show for in terms of policies, right? I mean, the Democrat had nothing to show for when it came to how well they had done with immigration policies. You can't mention the same when it comes to former President John Dramani Mahama and Vice President Mahmoud Bawumia. These are people that have fronted very popular policies. At the point I'm making that they have sold themselves very well to the people, right? They are very known within political discussions. You cannot tell me that both Vice President Bawumia and John Dramani, former President John Dramani,
I was pointing to Dennis about the campaign of the NPP, and you hear even President Akufo-Addo refer to John Mahama as a serial loser. It's something he doesn't miss when at the slightest opportunity. And they have been telling the people that, he was voted out. It means he cannot be voted back. This parallel will hurt them because if you are using that and if that impacts on our elections, if US elections outcome impact on our elections, then Donald Trump has disproved that. The NDC will say, there you have it. John Mahama can be re-elected.
Right. And I mean, that is true. That's why I said that you are in an election year. And so it makes absolute sense for the parties here to steal political capital from development in the US to give a boost to their campaign here. So just like the argument you made, we have seen how the NPP party is also trying to say that because of the ideological correlation between the Republicans and the NPP, once a Republican leader is coming to power, then automatically you have NPP also coming to power in this election year. So regardless of how you look at it this way, regardless of how you look at it, both these powers are going to seize on the moment to give a boost to their campaign. There is something that I want to draw attention on, right? Regardless of these differences. At the end of the day, it will boil down to
the I think against Baumia again is what I pointed to Dennis, that Donald Trump and his team were very focused and consistent on the question of continuity, and that Kamala represented continuity of the economic problems that they are suffering. How do you think that can be projected onto our elections as well? Because our economy has suffered, it has hemorrhaged, even though the NPP will point to exoteric reasons, exogenous reasons why all of these things have happened. They'll point to COVID, they'll point to Ukraine. I'm not saying you can discount all of these things, the bank collapse issues and all of that. So in those terms, is the economy not at a place you can say could be that of the US, and the reason they may not want to retain the NPP?
Well, thank you, Samson, for this point. I must say that the idea is not to say, in my opinion, that NPP or NDC will win in this election based on projection, but to draw the differences and the similarities. And so on that score, I agree with you when you say that you cannot dissociate Kamala Harris's intended government from the bad policies of Biden. But then again, and I'll come to the issue of economy. You see, it depends on how the vice presidential candidate is able to project his policies, define the perimeters of his campaign, for which he or she is going to be different from that of the government that they represent. Now, if you look at the US election, one of the failures of Kamala Harris is her inability to articulate how different she would be from her government if she came to power.
Correct.
On a number of incidents, she was asked this question, and to my disappointment, the answer she gave, right, was not something inspiring to convince undecided voters that she was not going to do anything different from her government. It was when she realized this was taking away her popularity and her support that in the latter stage of the campaign, she decided to toe a line, but it was too late for her. And so I'm saying that again. Let's look at Vice President Mahmoud Bawumia, the presidential candidates for NPP. How well has he been able to define his policies? How well has he been able to project himself? Right? Has he defined the parameters of his campaign? Has he sold the campaign messages very well to the extent that we know that even though you're a vice president, you belong to the current government. One thing about vice presidents is that they are also supposed to be ceremonial. You can't have a visible forefront than your president.
Okay.
And so right now that you are ready to take in that mantle, how different would you do things from your government? So there's no way he's going to run away from the governance or the inadequacies within the incumbents. There's no way he can run away from it.
Right.
But he can find a way to define himself very well, so he insulates himself from such blame.
Great. Thank you very much. Professor Bafo Adjumandua, I began my question to him with a quote that I can't believe what you say because I see what you do. So how do you think it won't be so difficult for the incumbent in the circumstances we find ourselves, contrasted with the US elections? And In the US, there's also another factor you may want to consider as you go on. But I think even in their situation, it may be a lot more flexible than here. I believe many people would like to change their minds even on election day and so on. There are people who want to consider a whole lot of factors before they decide who to vote for. But here in our country, it's difficult to say that at this point, you really have people who have not made up their minds. In America, there was statistics, some survey that was done, exit poll, that suggested that only less than 3% had not made their minds up before September.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Samson, and good morning to you, and thank you for putting me to be sandwiched by two communicator giants.
One is on your right,
yes.
One is on your right, and another is on your left.
So maybe it is heaven.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
We want to have the speaker capable of doing that. Yeah.
Anyway, that's a very interesting question. I've been enjoying the commentary by my colleagues and as well as the one who just joined us, Nanaya.
Yes.
First of all, let me make some general statements. You see, one of the things I learned from the American experience, the one we are discussing, is that oftentimes we are fooled by certain assumptions that we make about politics, especially in election time. See, Donald Trump was assumed to be a failure based on so many things that we have seen of him. This is a man convicted on 34 counts or so. This is a man found guilty on a charge of sexual abuse.
He's waiting trial, sentencing.
Exactly.
He's waiting sentencing.
Yes, precisely. A man accused of disrupting democracy, and Jack Smith was already working on it to prosecute him, is a president who was impeached twice. But for the Senate, where the Republicans were quite strong, he would have been totally impeached. And yet, he comes back and he wins the most, in such a stunning fashion.
Landslide.
Landslide. Like you said, nobody has won the public, the popular vote as much as he's won this time around. So there's something about him that I think political scientists, sociologists, and even psychologists must study about this man. Yeah. That besides all that, and I think Kamala Harris, perhaps...
Actually, all over the globe, Donald Trump will not qualify
to be president. Thank you.
So he'll be eliminated at that threshold.
And mind you, the reason is simple. The U.S. Constitution does not lay out clearly that an ex-convict cannot be president. So there was an argument by some prominent lawyers in the state that even if he's imprisoned, he can still run from the prison. It sounds ridiculous.
We had a situation like that for Nkrumah.
Correct. And that's exactly the point. So I think Kamala decided to run on a character issue, reminding Americans of the threat he has to their democracy, the fact that he's a bully, the fact that he's dangerous. Yes, dangerous to us and all.
So in terms of voting, choosing democracy as the reason to vote, those who voted for Kamala Harris on that account, 58%. You know, they kept saying he's a threat to democracy. So that 58% is the most votes that the Democrats got.
So she made some inroads there. But ultimately, it wasn't the deciding factor. There's something else. And listening to my colleagues, I wouldn't like to repeat what they've said. But clearly, Kamala missed on campaigning on issues that seem to be core to the Americans. You see, he was clever, talking about Trump, on working on the fears of the majority of Americans. And what are these fears? Immigration, illegal immigration. He apparently exaggerated the numbers by saying 10 million of them. But experts are saying about 6, 7 million. And that tells you the feelings of Americans, unspoken feeling. Nobody spoke about that. He certainly was for big business. And in fact, during his first tenure, businesses testified that it was good for them.
Right.
They want him back, which means the middle class and other small businesses suffered. But again, that's not the point here. Then more importantly, he championed what we may call traditional values.
Right.
And that is critical. You see, Trump knew what he was doing. The Democrats, unfortunately, over the years, have gone from the middle, center of the middle, to the far left in the ideological, For instance, Biden and Kamala were championing the cause of the LGBT, despite the fact that there are certain traditional values that every society has. And if they are not talking about it, doesn't mean they've given it up.
And they lost the evangelical population.
Precisely. And I think that really, that for me is one of the key issues. So this whole thing of rejecting the democratic liberalism that the Democratic Party championed versus Trump, who really work on that to get those Americans in the, not only in the evangelicals, even Catholics,
right,
and other groups, So
to
I
the
think
point that people believed that it doesn't matter his sin.
Precisely.
They believed that God was going to use him in these fronts. He went into debates. He told outright lies, outright fabrications. He was fact-checked. He was found to be lying. And they ignored all of the lies. They said, still, we'll vote for him.
Precisely. Is that not interesting? That's why I'm saying the character must be studied by social scientists. So the last point I'm making on this is this issue of ideology. Coming back to Ghana, I do not see any of our respected political parties demonstrating any ideological commitment. I don't see it. If you say you are democratic or social democrat, fine, but I don't see it. In fact, the other party, in terms of social interventions, from my perspective, seem to have done more, and they are supposed to be the conservatives. So in Ghana, ideology doesn't seem to play any prominent role in our politics. So if you're looking for comparisons between the American elections or their politics and the Ghanaian politics, I think there's what they've said may be right, but I think I don't see it much. Two different spaces here. So what are we going to do here? I think Ghanaians are still going to continue to listen to the political parties, the promises that they give. I don't know if they are going to be bothered by the fact that the former president is wanting to come back, he's saying, and therefore we're not going to vote for him. I'm not sure about that. Also, the issue of the current vice president not going to be able to distance himself from the sitting president, just as Kamala was unable to do that, because it's very difficult for a vice president who's worked for many years with the sitting president to turn around and say, I wasn't part of this policy.
But he hasn't said that.
You see?
I think he hasn't said that.
Yeah, but you see, Kamala realized that that was...
They have only recently tried to, try to be careful about that kind of communication. And so they tell you that the vice president was responsible for specific things and policies.
Yes.
And like Dennis just told us, just a couple of days ago, he made some promise and suddenly cabinet has, passed them. And they clearly want to use that to bolster his campaign.
And that is right. I can respect that because he needs to be bolstered. He's looking to be president, so they have to do and say what they have to say in order to get him there. But I'm saying that it is not easy to jettison your president under whom you serve and together formulated and implemented policy. It's not easy.
Okay.
Kamala could not do that successfully. But if they can do it better.
No, we haven't done that actually.
Yeah.
That's the point I'm trying to make. That
Okay, so
we will not do that.
So, Prof, thank you very much. Unfortunately, my guys here are asking for an opportunity to speak.
It's important.
But if we did that, we are clearly not going to be able
we are going up to 12.
transit to our next issue.
We're going up to 12. Something. In all fairness.
You see,
I sent you
if I give
time.
you 1 minute.
You gave me 8 minutes, about 30 seconds, you gave me 11 minutes.
I gave him 11 minutes, but he doesn't even recognize I gave him more time.
Yeah,
than you.
Actually, you didn't give I used my watch. I don't know which watch it was.
No problem. People are watching, they can go back and see.
Don't worry. I don't set my stopwatch
Set for us.
unless when these guys are here. We're taking a break. We'll return to Parliament.
Oh, can I?
I'm sorry. Let's move on. You're welcome back. This is Newsfile, it's your most authoritative news analysis platform, and my guest, Professor Bafo Ajimandria, former United Nations Senior Governance Advisor, Nanaya Omreku, International Relations and African Politics Analyst. He has left us. He's with the University of Ghana, Lesia, that's correct. Sami Jemfi is with the NDC, and Dennis Miracle Sabwaji is with the NPP. Now, the two-party communicators will do about 3 minutes each of, if you like it, a reaction, and then we'll proceed. But some of your messages here, and this from Prince Henry in Koforidua says, the fact is the Americans voted against Kamala Harris and voted for Donald Trump because they felt that Kamala had mismanaged the economy and not prioritized their needs. The same way Ghanaians will vote against Dr. Bawumia and the NPP because he has mismanaged our economy. Change has left America and it's coming to Ghana. So that's what a typical NDC person will say. Then Yao says, should the study be on the personality of Donald Trump, or should the study focus on the priorities of the American people? At this point, everybody knows what you get when you vote for Trump. So we should now be interested in what the American people look out for in their leaders. So I think that's a big difference. Who Donald Trump represents is such a big difference. This one from Kweku, and he says, are there really many voters in Ghana who have not yet made up their minds and are waiting for, or were waiting for the US elections to decide who to vote for on December 7? For me, though, the strongest parallel between the two elections is the economy. I would be surprised if any voter impacted by the Ghanaian economy, especially the depreciation of the cedi, would want to maintain the same party responsible for the current hardship. Okay. And then Dr. Abwaji says, I should add the theologians to the list that Professor Ajimambafo just gave, because not only the evangelicals and the rest of them, even theologians believe that Trump is the one who is coming to reset America back to the path of righteousness. Musa Abatwa says, Donald Trump's win hints at potential change because the U.S. election outcomes often have influence in Ghana's election results. With both countries' vice presidents, Kamala Harris and Dr. Bawumia, distancing themselves from unpopular policies. In Ghana, Dr. Bawumia, who led the EMT, appears to be running away from some of the very policies he championed, like e-levy, emissions tax, border tax, and many more, as Trump's Sankofa victory symbolizes Mahama's Sankofa agenda in Ghana. Okay, so interesting comments you are getting out there. And there's this one from the Alan Shermantin camp. And he says, it's unfortunate the duo in Ghana want to milk out heavily on the victory of Trump. Let these two understand that the victory of Trump was not a second coming or for his party, but rather on the issue of bread and butter. Samson, Alan has presented to Ghana a blueprint to the economic crisis recovery, the Great Transformational Plan, GTP. In this plan are realistic, achievable, sustainable policy prescriptions that can be delivered on record, in record time. Thank you. And this is by Nanaya Sapong. Thank you. So I'll pause with your messages here, and then I'm going to hold Dennis, Sami and Dennis to 3 minutes of rebuttals, if you like. Yes, let's hear you.
Well, Samson, Dennis made a point that President Mahama has been president before. And so for that reason, people will not vote for him because he listed a number of challenges that Ghanaians went through under Mahama. But you see, the reason why Ghanaians will vote for John Mahama is because of the same reason cited by Dennis. It is because he has been president before. And they know that he has a sound, he has a proven track record of sound economic management, which is what, according to the polls, Ghanaians consider their topmost priority today. Ghanaians are saying that cost of living has become unbearable. The hardships are simply too much, and they are looking for a leader who has done it before relative to the stability of the economy to come and do it again. They know that, yes, under Mahama, there were challenges, but you needed just about 4 cedis to get $1. Today, you need more than 17 cedis. 17 cedis to the dollar cannot be better than 4. They know that under Mahama, if you lent to the government, you were safe because you could go to sleep knowing that government will pay. You never suffered from haircuts and DDEP like people are suffering today. They know that under Mahama, even though we had challenges with unemployment, it was just at about 8%. Today, it has almost doubled, hovering around 15%. They know that, yes, under Mahama, we didn't have zero inflation, but an inflation rate of 15% is definitely better than 22%. Ghanaians are discerning, they know. So the track record is there. You understand? Number two, when they cite these challenges, that under Mahama, the nurse who didn't get employment will vote against you. What about the professional allied workers who have been home for 5 years as we speak today and who have not been posted by your government? What about the teachers, the nurses who have been home for 3 years, 4 years, who have not been posted by your government? At least they know that under John Mahama, they could benefit from automatic employment. They know that under John Mahama, the challenges you speak of, like Doomsaw, which was an inherited problem, was fixed. And so, just like Trump was ridiculed as a one-time president, and you are doing same to Mahama today, Ghanaians can read in between the lines and see that no, most of the things you said against Mahama were lies. Posterity has judged him positively. We now believe in him, and he's the man we can trust to lead. Finally, I think I have 1 more minute. Finally,
no, you have 10 seconds.
You see, Prof made an observation about Christian values, which were very critical in this election. The issue of LGBTQ. Ghana, I can say, even has stronger cultural sensitivities to that issue than the United States of America. Today, among the two candidates, or the two parties running, we know that the NPP clearly supports LGBT.
Really?
Yeah, we know. Their finance minister has come out,
really,
adducing reasons
Kamala
why.
Harris was here, and he was pressurizing the president to make this happen. The
finance minister.
I thought the accusation was that the executive and the judiciary are in cahoots to keep the bill away from.
Akufo-Addo has been emphatic that he's not signing the bill, and the finance minister of government has adduced. He wrote a 3-pager. Explaining why government will not sign that bill, because if they sign that bill, they won't get money. So clearly the NPP supports LGBTQI. Okay. So for me, we have heard
Akufo-Addo categorically,
and I've heard you read the quote right now.
Without any equivocation.
I've heard you read
that
the
he doesn't support it today. He doesn't support it tomorrow.
Like I heard you read the quotation.
We have heard Dr. Baumia, who is going into the election,
yes,
say straightforward.
Like I just heard you read here that if I see you doing something differently from what you say, I don't believe what you say.
Thank you.
Actions speak louder than words.
Thank you. Now let me go to Dennis. I'm sorry. Ernest sent a message. He says that the major similarity in the campaign is in the campaign messages, or what? He says, till the last days of the campaign period, all Kamala had as a message was Trump. I have never heard Baumia or any other MPP mount a stage without mentioning Mahama. It's bread and butter for us, and they are busy playing poker. We will make that decision and make it clear from Ernest. Yes.
Something we are going to make that decision, all of us. Every Ghanaian has a single vote. And you see, the NDC is their flip-flopping inconsistencies and blatant lies that will keep them in opposition. Some of the lies they say are so fictitious that it's like they sleep, wake up, cook it, and put it on the media for everybody to swallow. I mean, I sit here listening to Sami talk about LGBTQI, and I don't know why he doesn't realize that it's still, this is a lie that you've been peddling for 2-3 years, it didn't work, and you should look for something else. We have 28 days to elections. Tell the people something else.
Find a bill.
Absolutely something else. It's like you are competing against some abstract candidate. Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia is your competitor in these elections. He's a devout Muslim. He has indicated at least 10 occasions, even much more equivocal, much more strongly than your candidate, on his position on LGBTQI. So you come and sit on TV, you know it is a lie, you know it is false, but the regular stock in trade, let me put out falsehood, and assume that every Ghanaian is in your own candidate's understanding stupid. And so they will take it hook, line, sinker. And even when you are being corrected, no, you will not hear that. You not hear that. Now, again, something. I keep saying this, and I'll continue to say it. No Ghanaian voter is going to the poll because something has not been done. They are going to go into the poll to vote because something has not been done, and I think this is the person that can do it. You don't benefit from political gains automatically because there's an nail somewhere. So you come and sit here and say, because inflation is there. Something. What is 8% to 15%? What is the difference? 8% to 15%. What's the difference? About 7%. That is where John Mahama took Ghana's inflation from 8% to 15%. So if you come and sit here and you say that, oh, inflation was 15% and it is 22%. So somebody who votes against Bawumia, it's either you are trying to play on the minds of the people or you assume in your own understanding they are stupid. Because you took inflation from 8% to 15%. The economy that is in a mess today in your West is able to buy fuel to power generators, something you couldn't do.
Please, this is the screen. I'm getting scared.
The economy that is in a mess.
Too much and with your pen.
The economy that is in a mess today in your own West is able to keep the poor man's child in class. You couldn't do it. The economy that is in a mess, the economy that you claim is in a mess has been able to construct 12,000 kilometers of roads. You did 4,000. Hey. The economy that is in a mess has added close to about 6 new illnesses to our health insurance. By the time you were leaving office, 1.5 million people had left.
Please, your hand.
The worry for the Ghanaian people is not just because there are challenges. The worry is that they do not trust your candidate. He's not truthful. He's not consistent. Hey. You sit here and you tell us. You sit here and you tell us that people will be judged not based on what they say, but how they act. And you have a candidate that's basically opposed every single good for the Ghanaian people, only to start saying, I will do all of them because he wants their vote. And you think that people will just latch onto it, go and queue. I don't see any Ghanaian that will go and queue and vote for John Mahama. Hey. I'm telling you that. Maybe except for those who are wearing the red, green, white, and blue. There's Sami Jamfi and co. But you see, this is a very serious matter that the NDC want to trivialize and leave it as if it doesn't matter to the Ghanaians.
All right, thank you very much.
The economy that cannot service debt is ensuring that everybody has electricity. Your economy that could service debt couldn't simply buy fuel for generators.
Okay,
your economy couldn't buy chalk for the Ghanaian child. Your economy couldn't keep teachers and nurses employed. Your economy.
If you accuse him of exaggerating, I think you shouldn't do this.
No, but this is fact. This is fact.
When you say the economy could not afford chalk,
yes, but it's true.
That's not true.
No, but it's true.
No.
The second lady, every Ghanaian watching
that comment was an isolated comment.
But which of the things we are discussing here is it an isolation matter? Okay. Is it the case that every NAPCO person is 5
minutes?
Okay, thank you.
Is it the case? Which of them is it an isolated
once again,
matter?
I'm being faulted of my time management.
Is it disrupting me?
Prof, what would you say? But clearly, on the LGBT matter that Sami mentions, there's a perception that the NPP must fight, which is that if the president was actually interested, he would have signed the bill. Because people have seen that it is the NPP that has sponsored people to go to the Supreme Court to want to challenge this process, and the president's hands are sort of tied, but somewhat they are the ones behind it because they don't want to sign
reality.
it. Yes, Prof.
My point is different and straightforward. I think these two political parties must realize that a lot of Ghanaians are frustrated. A lot of Ghanaians on these coming elections have not made up their mind, and there are some who are even threatening not to vote at all because they've tasted 16 years of the NPP, 16 years of the NDC, and not many Ghanaians can say that they are better off. So they should be cautious in their statements.
Yeah.
Look, somebody like me, I voted in every election, but as I sit here, I've not been able to make up my mind. And let me tell you what somebody told, a very wise person told me, discussing this matter. He said, Prof, you know what? We just have two evils. So you decide the lesser evil and vote for. And that for me, coming from that person, said a lot. So I think this duopoly that we have, there are a lot of people who are not happy with that. So I think it's important. Just like Trump took his strong-headed approach on ideological grounds to win the crowd, we need to have...
And on bread and butter issues.
Of course, that's the bottom line.
Muhammad
I think
says,
that's more
it is
than
about
that.
the economy.
So all I'm saying is that don't be sure. A lot of Ghanaians are going to sit on the fence
Right.
because of their disappointment of the past 32 years.
And Prof, I was surprised. I was going to...
Yeah, 16.
Prof, I
Since the fourth,
I was going to court with my juniors in the firm, and one of them said, "I'm not going to vote." I said, "Come on, you won't do that. You have to vote."
That's right.
I said, "I'm not going to vote," and the reason she gave was the reasons you are outlining now.
Interesting.
Right.
But it's actually a misconception, you know.
Right.
Okay.
Because
Thank
we are
you.
not the same.
Thank
We are not living
you.
in
Thank
Ghana.
you.
The
Thank
difference
you.
is very
Thank you.
Because we just came together.
Okay.
in
Thank you.
2017.
Thank you. So this is what we do. We take a quick break. We return into the issues in Parliament.